In today's episode, we're exploring 5 devastating safari encounters, from a mother and daughter who made a fatal decision to walk across the Serengeti to a research student who got too close to a massive Nile crocodile in Botswana. Let's begin with the first story, where one family's final day on safari became their last day alive. It was August 14th, 2016, and the golden grasslands of Serengeti National Park stretched endlessly under the blazing Tanzanian sun. The vast savanna, dotted with acacia trees and teeming with wildlife, represented the culmination of a dream vacation for the Walsh family from Ohio. After years of saving and planning, Jennifer Walsh, her husband Tom, and their 8-year-old daughter Emma had finally made it to Africa for the safari adventure of a lifetime. At 34, Jennifer was an elementary school teacher who had always been passionate about wildlife and conservation. She had spent months researching their trip, reading about African animals, and teaching Emma about the incredible creatures they would encounter. Jennifer's love for education extended to her travels. She saw every experience as a learning opportunity and had been documenting their safari with photos and videos to share with her students back home. That morning, Tom had decided to join a walking safari with armed guides, while Jennifer and Emma opted for a game drive in an open safari vehicle with their local guide, Moses. The plan was simple: spend the morning photographing wildlife, return to the lodge for lunch, and then prepare for their evening flight back to the United States. African lions are apex predators that live in social groups called prides, typically consisting of related females, their cubs, and one or more dominant males. Adult males can weigh up to 420 pounds and are capable of taking down prey much larger than themselves, including buffalo and young elephants. Lions are ambush hunters that rely on teamwork and coordination to bring down their victims. They can run up to 50 miles per hour in short bursts and possess powerful jaws capable of delivering a bite force exceeding 650 pounds per square inch. Most importantly, lions view humans as potential prey, especially when people are isolated and vulnerable in open terrain. The game drive had been proceeding normally when their vehicle experienced mechanical problems about 10 miles from the lodge. Moses, their experienced guide, immediately radioed for assistance and instructed Jennifer and Emma to remain with the vehicle while he attempted repairs. In the distance, Jennifer could see what appeared to be buildings that she assumed were part of their lodge complex. Growing impatient after waiting for over an hour in the heat, Jennifer made the fateful decision that would cost both her and Emma their lives. Despite Moses's urgent warnings to stay with the vehicle, she convinced herself that the walk to the lodge would be safe during daylight hours. She gathered their water bottles and camera equipment, took Emma by the hand, and began walking across the open savanna. What Jennifer didn't realize was that a pride of 6 lions had been tracking the scent of the tourists for the past hour. As Jennifer and Emma walked across the open grassland, they were moving directly into the path of the approaching predators. The attack came without warning as Jennifer and Emma crossed a shallow depression in the grassland. The pride had positioned themselves in the tall grass on either side of the natural pathway, using their superior knowledge of the terrain to set up a perfect ambush. The 2 male lions struck first, launching themselves at Jennifer with explosive force while the females moved to surround Emma. The larger male, weighing over 400 pounds, slammed into Jennifer's back with bone-crushing impact, his massive claws raking across her shoulders and neck as he drove her to the ground. Jennifer's scream echoed across the savanna as the lion's powerful jaws clamped down on the back of her neck, his 4-inch canine teeth puncturing through muscle and vertebrae. The second male joined the attack immediately, his claws tearing into Jennifer's torso while his jaws found purchase on her arm. Emma's terrified screams joined her mother's as the 3 lionesses surrounded her with predatory precision. The coordinated attack was swift and brutal, with each lioness taking a different angle of approach to prevent any possibility of escape. The largest female knocked Emma to the ground with a powerful swipe of her paw, while the other 2 moved in to deliver the killing bites. Jennifer's struggles grew weaker as the 2 males continued their assault, their combined weight and strength overwhelming any resistance she could offer. The larger male's grip on her neck severed major arteries and damaged her spinal cord, causing massive blood loss and paralysis. The attack on Emma was equally swift and merciless. The lionesses worked with the efficiency of experienced hunters, their powerful jaws and razor-sharp claws making quick work of their small victim. Emma's cries were cut short as the largest female's bite crushed her skull, while the other lionesses inflicted fatal wounds to her torso and limbs. Within minutes, both Jennifer and Emma had succumbed to their injuries, their bodies lying motionless on the blood-soaked grass while the pride began the process of feeding. Moses had heard the screams and immediately radioed for emergency assistance while attempting to reach the attack site on foot. However, the distance and his need to avoid the lion pride meant that help arrived far too late. Park rangers and lodge security reached the scene nearly 2 hours after the attack, finding only scattered remains and evidence of the lion's feeding behavior. The investigation revealed that Jennifer had made multiple critical errors, including leaving the safety of the vehicle, walking in open terrain during peak hunting hours, and failing to recognize the signs of lion activity in the area. Tom Walsh was devastated by the loss of his wife and daughter, struggling to understand how their dream vacation had turned into an unimaginable tragedy. But lions weren't the only African predators that turned safari dreams into deadly nightmares. In South Africa's Kruger National Park, a wildlife photographer's quest for the perfect shot would bring him face to face with one of Africa's most elusive and dangerous cats. It was June 7th, 2015, and the rugged landscape of Kruger National Park shimmered in the South African winter sun, its rocky outcrops and dense bush providing perfect habitat for the continent's most secretive big cat. David Chen had been tracking a magnificent male leopard for 3 days, following radio collar signals and scat trails through some of the park's most remote areas. As a freelance wildlife photographer with 8 years of African experience, David had built his reputation on capturing images that other photographers couldn't or wouldn't attempt, intimate portraits of dangerous predators taken at impossibly close range. At 41, David was a former software engineer from California who had abandoned his corporate career to pursue his passion for wildlife photography. His work had been featured in several nature magazines, and he was working on a book about African big cats that he hoped would establish him as one of the premier wildlife photographers of his generation. David's success came from his willingness to take risks that others avoided, often working alone in remote areas and approaching dangerous animals closer than safety protocols recommended. David's specialty was leopard photography, and he had spent years studying their behavior and movement patterns. This particular male, known to researchers as Mapago, was one of the largest leopards in Kruger, weighing an estimated 150 pounds and controlling a territory of over 20 square miles. Leopards are among Africa's most dangerous predators, combining incredible strength with lightning-fast reflexes and razor-sharp claws. Adult males can weigh up to 200 pounds and are capable of dragging prey twice their size up into trees. They are ambush hunters with exceptional night vision and hearing, able to move through dense vegetation with complete silence. Leopards are also highly territorial and will aggressively defend their space against any perceived threat. Their powerful jaws can crush skulls, and their retractable claws are designed for gripping and tearing flesh. Most importantly, leopards are unpredictable and can attack without warning when they feel cornered or threatened. That afternoon, David had finally located Mapogo, resting on a rocky ledge about 200 yards from the dirt road where he had parked his vehicle. The leopard appeared relaxed, lying in the shade of an overhanging rock with his eyes half closed. David saw this as the perfect opportunity to capture the intimate portrait he had been seeking, a ground-level shot that would show the leopard's massive size and powerful build from a human perspective. David left his vehicle and began approaching the rocky outcrop on foot, carrying his camera equipment and moving slowly to avoid startling the resting cat. He climbed carefully over the lower rocks, positioning himself for what he believed would be the shot of his career. What David failed to recognize was that his approach was effectively trapping Mapogo against the rock face, eliminating the cat's escape routes and triggering his defensive instincts. The attack came when David was approximately 20 feet from the leopard, close enough to capture the detailed facial shots he wanted. Mapogo exploded into motion with shocking speed, his 150-pound frame launching from the rocky ledge directly at David's position. The leopard covered the distance between them in a single bound, his powerful hind legs propelling him through the air with deadly accuracy. Mapogo slammed into David's chest with with bone-crushing force, his momentum carrying both of them off the rocky ledge and onto the ground below. David's camera equipment scattered as he hit the hard-packed earth, the impact knocking the wind from his lungs and leaving him stunned and vulnerable. The leopard's claws found immediate purchase in David's clothing and flesh, his razor-sharp talons raking across his victim's torso and arms. The leopard's powerful jaws clamped down on David's neck with devastating force, his 4-inch canine teeth puncturing through muscle and major blood vessels. Mapogo's bite was precisely placed to sever the carotid artery and damage the spinal cord, causing immediate, massive blood loss and paralysis. David's struggles grew weaker as the leopard's assault continued, his body going limp as blood loss and trauma overwhelmed his system. Mapogo continued his attack for several more minutes, his claws and teeth inflicting additional wounds across David's head, neck, and torso. The leopard's natural hunting instincts drove him to ensure his perceived threat was completely neutralized, and he maintained his grip on David's neck long after his victim had stopped moving. Park rangers discovered David's body the following morning when he failed to return to his lodge as scheduled. His camera equipment was found scattered around the attack site, with several images still stored on his memory cards, showing his final approach to the leopard. Mapogo was observed in the area, but showed no unusual behavior, having simply defended his territory against what he perceived as a threat. The investigation concluded that David had violated multiple park safety regulations by approaching a dangerous predator on foot and entering restricted areas without proper authorization. His death prompted renewed discussions about photographer safety protocols and the risks of working alone with dangerous wildlife. But leopards weren't the only African predators that could turn a romantic safari into a deadly encounter. In Kenya's Masai Mara, a honeymoon couple's sunset walk would bring them face to face with one of Africa's most underestimated killers. It was March 22nd, 2017, and the golden grasslands of Kenya's Masai Mara stretched endlessly under the setting sun, creating the perfect romantic backdrop for newlyweds, Sarah and Mark Mitchell. The couple had chosen the famous reserve for their honeymoon, staying at a luxury tented camp that offered stunning views of the annual wildebeest migration. Sarah, a 28-year-old veterinary student from England, had been fascinated by African wildlife since childhood and saw their honeymoon as an opportunity to observe the animals she had studied in textbooks. Sarah's academic background had given her confidence around animals that perhaps exceeded her practical experience with dangerous African wildlife. She had spent 3 years studying animal behavior and had written her thesis on predator-prey relationships in African ecosystems. Her knowledge of hyena social structures and hunting patterns had made her particularly interested in observing these misunderstood predators in their natural habitat. The couple had been told by camp staff that short walks in the immediate vicinity of their accommodation were generally safe during daylight hours, provided they stayed within designated areas and remained alert for wildlife. However, as the sun began to set on their third day, Sarah convinced Mark to venture beyond the recommended boundaries for what she promised would be a brief romantic stroll. Spotted hyenas are among Africa's most successful predators, living in complex social groups called clans that can number up to 80 individuals. Adult females are larger than males, weighing up to 140 pounds, and possess one of the strongest bite forces in the animal kingdom, capable of crushing bones that other predators cannot break. Hyenas are highly intelligent, cooperative hunters that use sophisticated communication and coordination to bring down prey much larger than themselves. They are also opportunistic scavengers that will aggressively defend food sources against any perceived competition, including humans. As Sarah and Mark walked hand in hand through the tall grass, they encountered the distinctive whooping calls of hyenas in the distance. Sarah's excitement overcame her caution as she recognized the sounds of a feeding clan, and she convinced Mark to investigate, despite his obvious reluctance. They followed the sounds for nearly half a mile, moving steadily away from the safety of their camp. The clan of 8 spotted hyenas was feeding on a zebra carcass when Sarah and Mark approached their position. The hyenas had been feeding for several hours and were in a heightened state of aggression, protective of their kill and suspicious of any potential competitors. Sarah approached to within 30 feet of the feeding clan, ignoring Mark's increasingly urgent warnings to maintain their distance. She was fascinated by the opportunity to observe hyena social dynamics firsthand and believed her understanding of their behavior would keep her safe. The attack began when the clan's dominant female, a 130-pound matriarch, decided that Sarah posed a threat to their food source. The massive hyena charged across the distance between them with surprising speed, her powerful jaws already open and ready to deliver a bone-crushing bite. The rest of the clan followed immediately, surrounding Sarah in a coordinated attack that demonstrated their sophisticated hunting abilities. The matriarch's initial bite caught Sarah in the thigh, her powerful jaws clamping down with over 1,000 pounds of pressure per square inch. The bone-crushing force instantly fractured Sarah's femur while severing major arteries and causing massive blood loss. Sarah's scream echoed across the savannah as she fell to the ground, her leg unable to support her weight with the shattered bone. The other clan members joined the attack immediately, their powerful jaws and razor-sharp teeth finding purchase on Sarah's arms, torso, and remaining leg. Hyenas are designed to consume every part of their prey, including bones, and their teeth and jaws are perfectly adapted for tearing flesh and crushing skeletal structures. Sarah's struggles grew weaker as multiple hyenas continued their assault, each bite causing additional trauma and blood loss. Mark watched in horror from a distance, too terrified to intervene effectively against 8 powerful predators. Sarah's screams gradually weakened and then stopped as massive blood loss and trauma overwhelmed her system. The hyena clan continued feeding on Sarah's body for nearly 20 minutes before the sound of approaching vehicles caused them to retreat into the bush. Camp security had heard Mark's desperate radio calls for help and arrived with armed guards, but they were far too late to save Sarah's life. The investigation revealed that Sarah and Mark had violated camp safety protocols by leaving designated areas and approaching dangerous wildlife without proper supervision. The hyena clan was monitored but not relocated, as they had acted according to their natural protective instincts around a food source. But hyenas weren't the only African animals that could turn a safari adventure into a deadly encounter. In Zimbabwe, a solo travel blogger's quest for dramatic content would bring him face-to-face with one of Africa's most dangerous giants. It was September 11th, 2014, and Zimbabwe's Hwange National Park stretched across the landscape like an endless sea of mopane woodland and open grassland, its remote wilderness areas offering some of Africa's most pristine wildlife viewing opportunities. Jack Morrison, a 33-year-old adventure travel blogger from Australia, had been documenting his solo African safari for his modest but growing online following of 2,800 subscribers. His blog, Extreme Wanderer, specialized in dangerous travel experiences that most tourists would never attempt, and Jack was always pushing boundaries to create content that would set him apart from other travel influencers. Jack's approach to travel blogging was built on taking calculated risks that would generate dramatic stories and compelling footage. He had bungee jumped off Victoria Falls, swum with great white sharks in South Africa, and trekked through war zones in Central Africa, all documented with high-definition cameras and shared with his audience through detailed blog posts and videos. This solo safari represented his attempt to break into the lucrative wildlife content market, and he was determined to capture footage that would go viral. That afternoon, Jack had been following a massive bull elephant for over an hour, maintaining what he believed was a safe distance while filming the animal's behavior. The elephant was feeding peacefully in a grove of marula trees, using his trunk to strip bark and leaves while seemingly oblivious to Jack's presence. What Jack didn't realize was that this particular bull was in must, a period of heightened testosterone and aggression that makes male elephants extremely dangerous and unpredictable. African elephants are the largest land mammals on Earth, with adult bulls weighing up to 14,000 pounds and standing over 13 feet tall at the shoulder. They possess incredible intelligence and complex social behaviors, but they can also be extremely dangerous when threatened or during periods of heightened aggression. Bulls in must experience a surge of testosterone that can make them 60 times more aggressive than normal, and they will attack anything they perceive as a threat to their territory or dominance. An elephant's trunk alone weighs over 400 pounds and can be used as a devastating weapon, while their massive feet can crush bones and organs with ease. Jack made the fatal decision to leave his safari vehicle and approach the bull elephant on foot, believing that ground-level footage would be more dramatic and engaging for his audience. He had researched elephant behavior online and convinced himself that he could safely approach to within 30 feet of the massive animal without triggering an aggressive response. The bull elephant's behavior should have warned Jack of the extreme danger he was walking into. The massive animal was displaying classic signs of must: temporal glands streaming with secretions, frequent urination, and an aggressive posture with ears spread wide and trunk raised. The attack came when Jack moved to within 25 feet of the feeding elephant, close enough to capture the detailed facial shots he wanted for his blog. The bull elephant's response was immediate and devastating. He raised his massive head, spread his ears wide, and charged directly at Jack with the full force of his 12,000-pound body. African elephants can reach speeds of 25 miles per hour, and Jack had no chance of escape once the charge began. The massive bull slammed into Jack with bone-crushing force, his enormous head and tusks striking Jack's torso and launching him backward through the air. Jack's camera equipment scattered as he hit the ground hard, the impact knocking him unconscious and leaving him completely helpless against the elephant's continued assault. The bull's massive front feet came down on Jack's chest and abdomen with devastating force, the 6,000 pounds of pressure instantly crushing his ribcage and rupturing vital organs. The elephant's attack continued with methodical brutality as he used his feet to trample Jack's body repeatedly, each impact causing additional trauma and ensuring that his perceived threat was completely eliminated. The bull's tusks, each weighing over 100 pounds, were used to gore and toss Jack's lifeless form, while his powerful trunk delivered additional crushing blows to the head and torso. Jack's screams had been cut short by the initial impact, and he died within the first minute of the attack from massive internal trauma and blood loss. However, the enraged bull continued his assault for nearly 10 more minutes, driven by the aggressive instincts of must. Park rangers discovered Jack's mangled remains several hours later when he failed to return to his lodge as scheduled. His camera equipment was found scattered around the attack site, with some footage still intact, showing his final approach to the elephant. The bull responsible for the attack was observed in the area, but showed no unusual behavior beyond the normal aggression associated with must. The investigation revealed that Jack had violated numerous park safety regulations by leaving his vehicle and approaching a dangerous animal on foot. His death prompted renewed discussions about solo safari safety and the risks of inexperienced travelers attempting to create dramatic wildlife content. But elephants weren't the only African giants that could turn a research expedition into a deadly encounter. In Botswana, a zoology student's quest for scientific data would bring her face to face with one of Africa's most patient and deadly predators. It was November 3rd, 2013, and the Chobe River wound lazily through Botswana's wilderness, its muddy waters reflecting the African sun while concealing some of the continent's most dangerous predators. Dr. Amanda Foster, a 29-year-old zoology PhD student, had been conducting research along the riverbank for 6 weeks, studying crocodile behavior patterns as part of her dissertation on apex predator ecology. Her research camp was located in one of the most remote sections of Chobe National Park, where human presence was minimal and wildlife behavior remained largely undisturbed. Amanda's research focused on the hunting and territorial behaviors of Nile crocodiles, and she had been documenting their activities through a combination of direct observation, water sampling, and photographic evidence. Her fearless approach to dangerous wildlife research had earned her recognition among her professors, but it had also led her to take risks that more experienced researchers would have avoided. Working alone to prevent human interference with natural animal behaviors, Amanda often placed herself in situations that violated basic safety protocols. That morning, Amanda had identified a massive male Nile crocodile that appeared to be resting motionlessly on the riverbank about 50 yards from her observation point. The crocodile, which she estimated at over 16 feet in length, had been in the same position for over 2 hours, leading Amanda to believe he was in a dormant state that would allow her to approach safely for water sampling sampling, and close-range photography. Nile crocodiles are among Africa's most dangerous predators, capable of remaining motionless for hours while waiting for the perfect opportunity to strike. Adult males can reach lengths of 20 feet and weights exceeding 1,500 pounds, with jaw muscles capable of exerting over 5,000 pounds of pressure per square inch, the strongest bite force of any living animal. They are ambush predators that can explode from apparent rest to full attack speed in less than a second, and their powerful tails can propel them out of water with devastating force. Most importantly, Nile crocodiles view any movement near water as potential prey and will attack without warning when the opportunity presents itself. Amanda approached the riverbank carrying her water sampling equipment and cameras, moving slowly to avoid disturbing what she believed was a sleeping crocodile. Her research had taught her about crocodile behavior patterns, but her academic knowledge failed to prepare her for the reality of encountering a fully alert apex predator that was simply waiting for prey to come within striking distance. The massive crocodile had been aware of Amanda's presence from the moment she began her approach, but his predatory instincts kept him perfectly still until she moved within his strike zone. When Amanda knelt at the water's edge to collect her samples, she positioned herself exactly where the crocodile had been waiting for prey to appear. The attack was instantaneous and overwhelming. The 1,200-pound crocodile launched himself from the water with explosive force, his massive jaws already open and aimed at Amanda's torso. The crocodile's initial bite caught Amanda around the waist, his 5,000 pounds of bite pressure instantly crushing her rib cage and puncturing vital organs. Amanda's scream echoed across the river as the crocodile's teeth found purchase in her flesh and bone. The crocodile immediately began his signature death roll, spinning rapidly in the water while maintaining his crushing grip on Amanda's body. The violent rotation dislocated joints and broke bones while simultaneously dragging Amanda deeper into the river, where the crocodile's advantages became overwhelming. The death roll continued for nearly a minute, each rotation causing additional trauma while filling Amanda's lungs with muddy river water. Amanda's struggles grew weaker as the combination of crushing injuries, blood loss, and drowning overwhelmed her system. The crocodile's powerful tail thrashed violently, striking Amanda's body with additional force, while his jaws worked to reposition their grip for maximum damage. The massive predator's instincts drove him to ensure his prey was completely subdued before beginning the feeding process. Within minutes, Amanda's movements ceased as the crocodile's assault proved fatal. The massive reptile dragged her body to deeper water, where he could cache his prey until he was ready to feed. Nile crocodiles often store their kills underwater for several days, allowing decomposition to soften the flesh before consumption. Amanda's research equipment was found scattered along the riverbank when she failed to return to base camp that evening. Despite extensive searches involving boats and helicopters, her body was never recovered from the crocodile-infested waters of the Chobe River. The massive male responsible for the attack was never located, having likely moved to other parts of his vast territory after securing his kill. The investigation concluded that Amanda had violated basic safety protocols for crocodile research by working alone and approaching dangerous predators without proper backup or safety equipment. Her death prompted new safety requirements for wildlife researchers working in crocodile habitats and highlighted the extreme dangers of solo fieldwork with apex predators. Thanks for watching. Just when you think you understand the dangers of African wildlife, we're just getting started. Click the next video for the next stories that will show you why the African wilderness demands absolute respect.